The more time we got to spend with Blake Lively, the less we liked her, because she was such a high-maintenance diva bully brat.
Megyn Kelly just obliterated Blake Lively at the Conservative Political Action Conference in front of the entire world.
She seems like a bully.
The live telecast turned into a full-blown humiliation session with no room for Blake to escape.
Blake Lively has got a bit of a god complex.
Megyn called her out as a control-obsessed bully who throws a fit when things don't go her way and won't hesitate to bulldoze anyone who refuses to play along. Megyn Kelly took the stage at CPAC 2025 and wasted zero time dismantling Blake Lively's carefully crafted victim act.
Speaking of big names you definitely will know, have you heard about what's happening with the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case?
In front of a fired-up conservative crowd, she called out Hollywood's biggest scam, how the industry protects its own, flips narratives for power, and turns accusations into weapons.
Well, shortly into production, Blake Lively is very dissatisfied with virtually everything around her, is like this virulent sexual harasser who can't stop harassing one of the biggest stars in Hollywood in front of everybody on the set. I've got questions. I'm not sure why he would do that.
And right at the center of it all, Blake Lively's case against Justin Baldoni, a scandal that wasn't just about two celebrities, but a full-blown cultural war over who gets to control the truth.
And Blake Lively went to the New York Times, and the New York Times wrote this sympathetic poor Blake Lively story. Oh, we were all wrong about her.
Kelly didn't just go after Lively. She torched the entire system that enables women like her to twist Me Too into a career strategy. The audience erupted when she compared Lively to Amber Heard, because let's be honest, it's the same tired script, a declining actress, a conveniently timed victim narrative, and a media machine ready to burn any man who dares to stand his ground.
She's actually a good person and a Me Too victim. And then Justin Baldoni did something very smart. He hired the lawyer who represented me in my fight with NBC News, which ended well.
Kelly didn't hold back on the media's role in this mess either. The second Lively accused Baldoni, the headlines went wild, painting her as a fearless survivor and him as Hollywood's latest villain. But when the receipts started rolling in, texts, emails, contradictions, suddenly, silence.
And so the more time we got to spend with Blake Lively, the less we liked her, the more her promotional efforts for a film about domestic violence felt off. She was full of giggles and laughter and wanted to promote her liquor brand. Nothing says domestic violence like a bottle of tequila. What?
The same reporters who couldn't stop calling Baldoni a predator conveniently forgot to update their stories when the so-called evidence fell apart. And Kelly made it crystal clear. Blake Lively was never the victim here. She was the aggressor, and the moment she realized she couldn't manipulate the project to her liking, she reached for the one weapon guaranteed to destroy a man in Hollywood: accusation.
So he optioned this book called It Ends With Us, and it's about domestic violence. And he managed to get Blake Lively to star in his movie, across from him.
At the heart of it all was It Ends With Us, a film Baldoni worked for years to secure and direct. But Lively, known for being impossible on set, decided that acting wasn't enough. She wanted total creative control.
So she says he's been harassing her, and they bring in some team, and he says, whatever you want, I will do it or not do it, you tell me. So they go forward.
When Baldoni wouldn't hand it over, she flipped the script, literally. In the blink of an eye, he went from director to harasser, because in today's Hollywood, that's all it takes. Kelly didn't mince words. This wasn't about justice or safety. It was about power. Lively knew that with one well-placed accusation, Baldoni's career would be in ruins before he even had a chance to respond.
And she goes out in this past summer, and she had about 2 minutes of bad PR. The problem for Blake Lively, in my opinion, is that she does not improve upon acquaintance.
Except this time, the accused didn't roll over. Baldoni didn't beg for forgiveness or disappear from the spotlight. He fought back. And with powerhouse attorney Brian Friedman leading the charge, the entire case unraveled before it even made it to court.
His name is Brian Friedman, and he's a legal genius. Highly recommend if you ever, God forbid. And Brian Friedman knows how to fight back against a bully. Trust me.
The so-called harassment Completely debunked. Text messages proved Lively had invited Baldoni into her trailer, while the so-called inappropriate content she complained about was literally a still image of a water birth for a film scene. It was a desperate attempt at character assassination, and Kelly made sure everyone knew it.
Justin Baldoni denied those claims of sexual harassment and only tried to appease Blake Lively because she was such a high-maintenance diva bully brat.
But this wasn't just about two actors clashing on set. Kelly exposed how Hollywood has turned the Hal Had Me Too movement into a corporate power tool. What once existed to protect real victims has become a way for certain actresses to settle scores, boost careers, and eliminate competition. And the biggest problem? Every false accusation makes it harder for actual survivors to be believed.
This one reporter re-upped a video in which she interviewed a then 8-month pregnant Blake, and kicked off the interview as you would do as a journalist if there's something obviously different about somebody physically by saying, "Oh, you have such a cute baby bump." And Blake was taken aback, even though it was obvious, and said, "Oh, so do you."
But Hollywood doesn't care about the damage. They care about their next headline, their next scandal, their next controlled narrative. Then came Kelly's knockout punch, the hypocrisy of it all. Lively's PR team worked overtime behind the scenes, dictating coverage, silencing contradictions, and painting her as a tragic heroine.
So normal people at home who don't care about this woman at all are looking at her like, "I don't like her. She seems like a bully."
The same media that rushed to defend her conveniently ignored the red flags. Her bizarrely upbeat press tour for a film about domestic violence, her awkward tequila promotion mid-scandal, and her public meltdown where she insulted a female journalist. None of it fit the victim storyline, so the press did what they do best, pretended it didn't exist.
Is instead looking a lot more like Amber Heard.
But here's the problem for Hollywood. They've lost their monopoly on the truth. Kelly made sure everyone knew it. The public isn't falling for these stories anymore. They saw what happened with Johnny Depp. They saw how the media buried his side of the story until the evidence forced them to acknowledge the truth.
If you're a Hollywood star or any sort of a public figure, would you just please take your licks in the press and shut up about it?
And now, they're seeing it happen again. Social media, independent journalists, and unfiltered platforms have ripped the mask off Hollywood's propaganda machine. The game is up.
Because her editors finished it up. That's the situation he says he was in.
And do you know Blake Lively's obsession with control didn't start with It Ends With Us? But this was the project where she finally met someone who wouldn't bow down. From the second she was cast, it wasn't enough to just be the lead. She wanted the entire production under her thumb.
And in her complaint, the thing she's bitching about is that this terrible PR campaign that was opened up against her hurt sales of her liquor brand and her hair care products.
Insiders confirmed she pushed to direct, edit, and override key creative decisions that weren't hers to make, completely ignoring the fact that Justin Baldoni was the rightful director and had secured the film's rights. There was no contract, no authority backing her demands, but that didn't stop her from trying to take over anyway.
I want all the roles for me and only me. I want full control because I am a controlling bully. That Justin Baldoni, ultimately, by the time they got to the premiere, was mandated by Blake Lively.
By mid-2020, the power struggle wasn't even a secret anymore. Reports, first broken by Variety on October 18th, detailed how Lively constantly interfered with production, rewriting scripts, micromanaging scene direction, and pressuring crew members to prioritize her opinions over Baldoni's.
She's just extremely high maintenance and someone who plays the victim when she doesn't get her way.
This wasn't just an actress giving creative input. This was a full-blown turf war. Baldoni stood firm, reminding her that, shocker, he was the director. And that's when everything shifted. The moment Lively realized she wasn't getting her way, she flipped the entire situation in a move so calculated it belonged in a political thriller. Just weeks after her creative power grabs were shut down, whispers of discomfort on set started circulating.
She winds up suing Justin Baldoni. She files a complaint with the Human Rights Commission out in California saying he sexual harassed me and then he retaliated me by pushing all this bad press about me.
At first, it was framed as minor workplace complaints, but by January 2024, right before the film's promo campaign was about to launch, Lively officially filed a complaint with the California Human Rights Commission. Her claims? Baldoni had made her feel unsafe during production. In reality, this was never about harassment. It was about revenge.
He was behind it because I found his agent, his PR agent's nasty text saying, "We can ruin her. If we have to ruin her, we will." And those texts do exist. And Blake Lively went to the New York Times, and the New York Times wrote this sympathetic, poor Blake Lively story. Oh, we were all wrong about her.
Lively played her cards perfectly, and Hollywood's media machine did what it does best, ran with the story. Within days of her complaint going public on February 2nd, the New York Times dropped a full expose, branding her a brave woman standing up against a powerful director. No solid evidence, just a lot of anonymous sources, and a narrative tailor-made to paint Baldoni as the villain.
And he hires Brian Friedman and countersues her and the New York Times for $400 million, claiming this is a massive defamation.
And this wasn't some out-of-character moment for her. Lively has a long history of using control as her personal brand. Back in 2016, during the filming of All I See Is You, she went head-to-head with director Mark Forster over how her character should be portrayed. A production assistant later spilled to The Hollywood Reporter that Lively would demand reshoots just because she didn't like how she looked in certain scenes.
Blake Lively apparently wanting control of a movie she did not control, wanted to get the camel's nose under the tent as an actress and then take over the entire production, mission creep on steroids.
Not because of the story, not for artistic reasons, pure vanity. If she wasn't the one calling the shots, she made sure to make life miserable for those who were. And it didn't stop on set. Lively's controlling, high-maintenance attitude followed her everywhere, including her L'Oreal campaign in 2018.
And Blake Lively, who I believe thought she would be received or perceived as an Alyssa Milano or Ashley Judd Me Too victim, is instead looking a lot more like Amber Heard.
One standout moment? She publicly humiliated a junior stylist in front of the entire team over a wardrobe choice she didn't like. This isn't someone who just has high standards. This is someone who thrives on dominance and making people bend to her will.
As you would do as a journalist if there's something obviously different about somebody physically by saying, "Oh, you have such a cute baby bump." And Blake was taken aback, even though it was obvious, and said, "Oh, so do you." The reporter was not pregnant. It was a nasty jibe at her for no reason.
Even journalists haven't been spared from Lively's mean streak. Remember the infamous pregnancy insult from July 2023? During an interview with Elle, reporter Sophie Millington made a harmless remark about Lively's baby bump. Instead of laughing it off like a normal human being, Lively shot back, "So do you," fully aware that Millington wasn't pregnant. The clip went viral, exposing her not just as rude, but straight up cruel. And when backlash hit, no apology, no clarification, just radio silence. Because when you're Blake Lively, accountability is someone else's problem.
So negative press swirled around her during this whole, like a month, right? Later, she would describe this as though it was the pile-on against Trump.
But perhaps her most tone-deaf moment came during It Ends With Us's press tour. Instead of focusing on the film's heavy themes of domestic violence, she treated it like a free ad campaign for her tequila brand, Betty Buzz. Interviews, tequila. Red carpet events, more tequila. Instagram posts, surprise. It's tequila. Audiences caught on fast, questioning how someone could claim to care about victims while simultaneously using their pain as a marketing gimmick. But as always, Lively ignored the backlash and kept cashing in.
The other thing is, Brian Friedman produced text messages between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. So we don't have to take his side's word for it.
And then, the receipts came out. Baldoni's legal team wasn't playing games. And when they dropped a series of text messages in March 2024, one stood out. Lively had personally invited Baldoni into her trailer while she was breastfeeding.
And what they showed is that Blake Lively has got a bit of a God complex.
This directly contradicted one of her key claims, that Baldoni had invaded her space at that exact time. The moment this hit the internet, comparisons to Amber Heard's infamous pledge versus donate disaster started rolling in. The script had officially flipped.
Justin Baldoni denied those claims of sexual harassment and only tried to appease Blake Lively because she was such a high-maintenance diva bully brat.
Then came the legal nuke. On April 15th, Baldoni filed a $400 million defamation lawsuit, making it clear he wasn't just fighting back. He was going for full-scale destruction. His attorney? Brian Friedman, the same legal bulldog who exposed NBC News cover-ups in 2019. The message was clear. Baldoni had evidence, and he wasn't about to let Lively's smear campaign slide.
He told us that Justin Baldoni claims she tried to take over his movie because she has a history of saying, okay, I'll be the star, but what I secretly want to do is direct it and edit it and produce it. I want all the roles for me and only me. I want full control because I am a controlling bully.
The first glaring mistake was nothing short of a PR catastrophe. On Good Morning America, August 5th, 2020, Lively was supposed to discuss It Ends With Us, a film about a woman escaping an abusive relationship. A serious topic, right? Except, just minutes in, she veered completely off track to gush about her tequila brand, Betty Buzz. Viewers were stunned. Social media exploded, and within hours, #ToneDeafBlake was trending.
And was shocked when Justin Baldoni did not want her to do those extra things.
Because really, who talks about liquor while promoting a movie about domestic violence? Even major news outlets like The Guardian and The Washington Post called it out, pointing out the sheer irony of using an abuse survivor's story to push an alcohol brand. If this was meant to make her look strong and relatable, it had the opposite effect. She came across as out of touch, opportunistic, and completely detached from the very cause she claimed to care about.
And in her complaint, the thing she's bitching about is that this terrible PR campaign that was opened up against her hurt sales of her liquor brand and her hair care products. Oh my God.
On September 15, 2020, former assistants and stylists started coming forward with their own horror stories of working with Lively. How she belittled people on set, made unreasonable demands, and lashed out when things didn't go her way. The public was no longer seeing her as a victim. They saw her for what she really was, a Hollywood diva with a control problem. Then came the final PR train wreck, her October 2nd, 2024 interview on The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon. This was supposed to be her comeback moment, her chance to look composed, serious, and deeply affected by the trauma she had supposedly endured.
She says he inappropriately smelled my neck when we were doing a scene. Then you see the scene, they're dancing, they're caressing, they're making out, it's like, but the neck thing was too much when he smelled it? Like, all right.
Instead, she spent most of the interview giggling, making lighthearted jokes, and even casually mentioning her drama-filled year like it was some quirky anecdote. The worst moment? When Fallon gently brought up the film's difficult subject matter, Lively didn't even try to stay on topic. She awkwardly pivoted back to talking about her tequila brand. Again. At this point, it wasn't just bad PR, it was outright embarrassing.
They went into my trailer when I was breastfeeding my baby. You're like, that's disgusting. What's wrong with these people? Then you see his text message where she says, come on over to my trailer. I'm breastfeeding baby, but it's fine.
The backlash was immediate, and by October 3rd, 2024, critics weren't even bothering to sugarcoat it anymore. Where was the raw emotion? Where was the seriousness? Why was she laughing on national television while discussing such a heavy topic? Columnists from Variety, Rolling Stone, and The Hollywood Reporter all pointed out the same glaring issue. Her behavior didn't match the story she was trying to sell. If she was really a victim, why did she seem so detached from her own allegations?
Yeah, she says his weird producing partner showed me porn. I'm like, these people are freaks. Then you see what he actually says he showed her, the producing partner, which was she was filming a birth scene in the movie, and it was a still shot of a water birth his wife had at home. You can't see anything X-rated. It's a PG photo. You can't see anything at all.
And this is where the Amber Heard comparisons became impossible to ignore. Just like Heard in the 2022 Johnny Depp trial, Lively had carefully positioned herself as a victim, but her actions told a completely different story. The inconsistencies were too obvious. The public had seen this play out before, and they weren't falling for it again. The more she tried to control the narrative, the more she lost it. By mid-October, the damage was beyond repair. Public opinion polls from Entertainment Weekly showed nearly 70% of people believed she was lying or exaggerating her claims against Baldoni. Hollywood had once again underestimated its audience, assuming people would blindly support a scripted victim narrative. But after years of scandals, the public had learned to question everything.
You've been gaslit to high heaven every time you've picked up a newspaper in the United States. Every time you've turned on CNN.
And no doubt Baldoni was a small actor as compared to Blake, but he didn't just defend himself, he went to war.
And it's wonderful to see someone fighting back.
The moment Blake Lively's accusations escalated from industry whispers to a full-blown media circus, he had two options: let Hollywood chew him up and spit him out, or fight back with everything he had. He chose the latter, and his counterattack was fast, ruthless, and loaded with receipts. Unlike others who had been falsely accused and forced into silence, Baldoni didn't fold. He came armed with undeniable proof.
You've been lied to. You've been bullied or seen others with lesser power bullied by the media and the leftist Democrats.
At the center of his legal blitz was Brian Friedman, the attorney you call when you want to obliterate a smear campaign. Friedman, the same powerhouse who dismantled NBC News in 2019, wasted no time. Within weeks of Lively's allegations going public, Baldoni's team had already started dismantling her story, piece by piece. This wasn't just about clearing Baldoni's name. It was about putting Lively's credibility on trial. The first bombshell hit on March 10, 2020, when Baldoni's team released text messages that outright contradicted Lively's biggest claim that he had invaded her privacy while she was breastfeeding on set.
You have been the victim of overbearing and controlling leftists who think they are the final arbiters of what's best for you and your life. And it's wonderful to see someone fighting back.
The media had run wild with this allegation, using it to cement Lively's status as a victim. But then, the receipts dropped. Text messages showed Lively herself had invited Baldoni into her trailer during that exact time, reassuring him it was totally fine. That wasn't just a minor contradiction, it obliterated one of her most serious accusations. Suddenly, even her most loyal media allies were struggling to justify their support.
It's bringing up, like, room to explore the past 10 years that we've all been through and how, Trump put a period at the end of it, we hope, or at least the beginnings of the end.
And that was just the beginning. By April 1st, 2024, Baldoni's team had uncovered a fully coordinated PR campaign against him, directly orchestrated by Lively's team. Internal emails leaked to The Hollywood Reporter proved that her publicists had contacted journalists and media outlets weeks before she even made her allegations public.
Because it feels very realistic. Before we go there, though, look, Team Justin has not given up, and they are being incredibly aggressive because Brian Friedman is doing his job. This is what he does.
The emails laid out a strategy to frame Baldoni as an industry predator, ensuring Lively would be seen as the brave whistleblower. This wasn't about justice. It was a cold, calculated takedown designed to elevate Lively's power in Hollywood at Baldoni's expense. Then came one of the strangest and most humiliating details: Baldoni's forced isolation during the film's premiere.
Other sources report that he frequently would ask God for guidance during creative decisions. That's part of the reason why, two more said there was an unusual amount of physical contact in the form of hugging crew members. The faith's principles and ideas are interpreted and accepted in a variety of cultural contexts.
According to sources, Lively demanded he be physically separated from the cast on the night of the premiere, but she didn't stop there. She had him stashed away in a basement-level room, completely cut off from the event.
The reason? Friedman is going to annihilate Lively on the stand during depositions. She thinks she knows what they have, everything that's on the website, so she can prepare for that, but she can't prepare for what she doesn't know they have, and again, they have a lot.
When this was revealed in court filings on April 20th, 2024, it was no longer just a case of professional disagreements or even allegations. It looked like a deliberate attempt to publicly humiliate Baldoni in the most absurd way possible. The narrative of Lively as a helpless victim was falling apart, and now people were questioning if this was ever about safety or just about power.
Justin kept everything. Now, why? Why would he have kept everything? That's a good question. Well, did you think he did something wrong? Or could the, interactions on set have been so uncomfortable for some, it was just because of the way he is culturally with his religion.
By May 2024, Baldoni had had enough. He took his counterattack to the next level, filing a $400 million defamation lawsuit against both Blake Lively and the New York Times. The suit accused Lively of knowingly fabricating claims against him and called out the Times for running with the story without fact-checking a single major detail.
There's a little bit of an arrogance to it. If it's like he doesn't want to acknowledge the world we live in, which is that most people don't want to do this kumbaya.
The legal filings, made public on May 15, 2020, linked Lively's PR team directly to journalists who had pushed her narrative without verifying any of it. If the lawsuit succeeded, it wouldn't just clear Baldoni's name, it would set a precedent that Hollywood and the media could no longer get away with spreading unverified allegations for clicks and outrage.
What we can think, what we can feel, where we can pray, what we have to put in our arms, what we have to put in our children's arms, our babies' arms, it's a lot. They seem to be really drunk on their power.
And just as Baldoni's legal fight ramped up, Megyn Kelly took the battle beyond Hollywood. On The Megyn Kelly Show, she went after the media's blind loyalty to Lively, exposing how this entire scandal was part of a bigger cultural war. Her message? This was never about gender. It was about power. Hollywood elites had weaponized the Me Too movement, turning it into a tool for silencing rivals, boosting careers, and rewriting history in their favor.
They play the victim, just like Blake Lively. How dare you? I am subjected to all these stories, right? You're subjected to the stories because you did something wrong, and that's the way the media and the world works, and because you deserve it.
Kelly didn't hold back. She called out the damage that false accusations like Lively's do to actual survivors of harassment. When powerful figures cry wolf for personal gain, it makes it that much harder for real victims to be believed. And the data backed her up. According to a 2020 National Sexual Violence Resource Center study, false accusations make up only 2% to 10% of reported cases. But when high-profile women like Lively weaponize the movement, that tiny percentage causes massive harm.
The media's days of pretending they are holier than thou are over.
It makes people question real victims, turning a movement meant to bring justice into a Hollywood game of manipulation. This scandal was no longer just a celebrity spat. It had become a war over the truth. And if you want to stay updated, hit the subscribe below.